Hello and welcome. Are you somebody looking to achieve one of the highest grades possible in GCSE Maths? Well, if you are, then please continue to watch, as in this session we will look to tackle basic vector geometry and touch upon the topic of vector geometry when it comes to proof. Now, as always, please remember, if we touch upon any topics in this video that you need further support with, check out our other videos. And as always, in this session, we will be calling upon your previous knowledge and prior understanding. In this session today, we'll most likely be calling upon your conceptual understanding of what we refer to often as mathematical space. But like I say, if you are looking to achieve one of the highest grades possible, then please continue to watch. So if we take question 1, given AB. Now, I should start off by saying, when we refer to vectors AB, there is always an arrow above that vector, and that indicates the direction. So we're going from A to B, and that equals vector A. Now, quite often, vectors are written in bold type, or as you can see from the diagram below, with a line beneath that letter. So in the question, it's bold type, but where I've done my handwriting, I've used the line underneath to denote vector. And also you'll see I've drawn an arrow that goes in the same direction as the vector in the question. So because we're going from A to B, my arrow goes from A to B, indicating that same direction. And we're also told vector BC equals 2B. Now I've created a triangle. Why a triangle? Well, there are 3 letters. Does it have to look like this? Absolutely not. But if you remember our 3 introductory videos, we often think that it helps to include a diagram to make your understanding that bit clearer, to add clarity. And it's with that clarity we can build confidence. So without further ado, we're told AB equals A and BC equals 2B. Find AC. Now, if you think of these vectors in some way as pathways, in an ideal world, we'd walk along this path here. But you have to imagine that that path is closed. So instead, we need to go from A to B and then from B to C. Well, all of a sudden, I'd like to think that makes things a lot clearer. To go along path AB, that is vector A, and then to go from B to C, we go along this path here. So we also, in other words, add the vector 2B. And that is just a very basic introduction to vectors. As always, these questions start at a relatively low level, and then they will build up gradually. And this is only a basic introduction to vectors. So let's look at question 2. Given AB equals 5A, so again, I've just drawn a straight line, A to B, 5A, and my arrow again. Find BA plus 2AB. Well, BA, let's do that first, is going in the opposite direction. So that will simply be negative 5A. 2AB will equal 2 lots of this. So in other words, 10A. Now I need to do the question. BA, which is now we know minus 5A, plus 2AB, which is 10A, and that equals 5A. So in these first 2 questions, we're just demonstrating the basic concept of combining vectors and introducing that basic concept of, I suppose, vector spaces moving around. Let's have a look at question 3. Now this time, there is no diagram. I want to do that with you in real time. So how many letters do we have? We have P, we have Q, we have R. So straight away, I'm going to adopt the approach of a triangle. And I'm just not making it up as I go along, but I'll add the letters in as I go. So let's just say that's P. We're going to Q, so put my arrow on. So that has to be Q. And this is vector 3A. We now need to go from Q to R. And it could be anywhere. It could be here, it could be here, it could be here. I'm just going to say there. Doesn't matter. And this time, we label it R. We have our directional arrow because it's from Q to R. And that is vector 4B. And we are being asked to work out the vector PR. So this was very similar to the first question, but there was no diagram. Some of you might think, I don't need a diagram. But as the questions become more complex, I would always advise to try and draw one. Indeed, more often than not, you'll be given one in the exam anyway. So here we go, P to R. I can only walk up this path and this path because this is shut. We don't know what this is. So it will simply be 3A plus 4B. So now let's look at question 4. So in this instance, we are given a diagram. In triangle ABC, well, we can see ABC quite clearly. AB, so A to B, directional arrow equals 2A. B to C is 3B. And point D is such that C to D is negative A. So you'll notice here, A to B was 2A. So negative A has to go in the opposite direction and half as long. A vector gives us direction and distance. So it must go in exactly the same direction and the arrow must go in the opposite direction with half the length. So we need to find A to D. So if I take a different colour, which paths can I walk? I can't walk along this path because that's shut. So I can go up here. I can come down here. And then I can finally get to D. So I'm going to go from, I'm going to walk along A to B. Then I'm going to walk along B to C. And then I'm going to walk along C to D. And that will give me the vector A to D. I tend to look at the first letter and the last letter, and that will give me my resultant vector. I now substitute, I guess. Vector AB is 2A plus vector BC is 3B plus vector CD is negative A. What does that give us? It gives us A plus 3B. So please remember, this is an introductory video to vector geometry. If you do need any further support, please check out our videos. But for now, good luck in your quest for achieving one of the highest grades possible in GCSE Maths, and thank you for watching.